Hey everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenny and Andy McPhee.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny and welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable. We have another amazing guest coming on the channel today, so please hit like and subscribe. And after this episode, please stay tuned to the RNU channel for more amazing guests. Let's get this on!
Hey everybody, how you doing? Just a quick little share of why I started Relentless and Unstoppable. It was for one very simple reason, because of Doug Kenny. Nothing to do with me at all, zero. I was just coaching Doug, and he took on the coaching and mentoring, and he made all the changes. He took all the suggestions from his parents as well as my coaching, but it was all about Doug, his breakthrough and his weight loss, his willingness to accept that he is dealing with high functioning autism and other issues, but he's never quit, he's never given up. So we did one interview with him to share his story, and then we decided to start interviewing other people, and Doug has now taken over the whole channel. And he does all the interviews, he runs everything. He's just an amazing young man. So RNU was born from simply what an amazing young man Doug is, and his story needed to be shared.
Yeah, really congratulations on that for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. So what other books have you written about?
Well, my most recent one, so again, about women who are unstoppable. And for these, the latest two, I did the illustrations for. They're middle grade, and what I did is, they're not picture books, so they're not this beautiful, sumptuous illustration, but I have, each chapter is prefaced by a couple of pages of graphic novel story to kind of make the story more accessible. So I did the graphic novel art and story, and then the prose chapters that follow. And the one that just came out a couple weeks ago is called Spying on Spies, How Elizabeth Smith Friedman Broke the Nazis' Secret Codes. And that's about a woman, again, a woman who you don't know about, who she and her husband were they were the code breakers for the entire United States during World War I. There was nobody else but them. This was before there was a CIA, that was before there was an NSA, and they were just two young people who worked at a rich eccentrics complex, and they'd been hired to work on this rich eccentric, thought that he was spending a lot of money on all these different projects because he had money to throw around, and he felt like investing in knowledge was the best way to spend his money, which is right, but a lot of his things were really oddball crazy. And what he wanted them to work on is he was absolutely convinced that Shakespeare's plays weren't actually written by Shakespeare, and that there was a secret code inside the actual typography of the plays that would reveal that they're really written by Francis Bacon. And so this young couple was brought there they weren't a couple then, they were two different individuals, and she was a young woman who, at the time, you were either a teacher or a nurse. There were no other jobs, or you were a mom. There were no jobs for women. And she'd been desperate to find something, and this opportunity came to her, and she grabbed it, even though she didn't think it was true. And the more she looked for this code, the less she found something, and she thought, this is the opposite of code breaking. You're not supposed to find what you're looking for, what you want to find. You're supposed to look at the text and see what it reveals. So she and this man who was assigned to help her, they end up teaching themselves code breaking, because they thought, we can find the rigors of this. We can show this rich guy that it's all hooey, and he can use this code breaking on something else. And because they were on code breaking, the United States military comes to them and has them work on all the codes that they find during World War I. So everything that's solved during World War I is just this young couple. It's kind of crazy to think of it. And then after World War I, her husband, being a man, he gets hired to work for the military. She, being a woman, they still want to use her, but she can't be in the military. But they use her to break codes for traffickers during Prohibition. This is during the time of Prohibition. So she's the one tracking down gangsters, including Al Capone's brother, and a whole network of his criminal network of booze being brought to the States. And then once Prohibition is repealed, there's still a criminal network that have been created by this, and they're just bringing different things, drugs, opium, weapons. And so she works on breaking those codes, and she's very good at it. Just one woman using no computers, just a pen and pencil and her brain. And then both she and her husband are brought back in during World War II. And he ends up, her husband's William Friedman, he ends up breaking the Enigma machine that the Japanese are using, Purple, it's called Purple, and she ends up breaking the Enigma machines that are being used by Nazis in South America. There's this whole network of Nazis because they think they can start another fourth Reich in South America. And she breaks those codes. So she's just an incredible person, and another one of those stories that just doesn't get told. And part of it didn't get told because a lot of her achievements were not declassified until relatively recently, and some things are still classified. I can't get at everything, but you can get a lot more now than you could before.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you've done it already, but there might be a topic of interest based on what they might find this year. I don't know if you heard, but there was an expedition out in the Pacific Ocean that believed that they found the remains of Amelia Earhart's plane. If it turns out to be...
Yeah, I saw that, but but not Amelia Earhart.
What was that?
But it's not Amelia Earhart, right?
Well, they haven't confirmed it yet, actually. I was looking up the info this morning just for an update. They found wreckage like off the coast of Howland Island that looked like a plane, and obviously they found it via sonar. They haven't confirmed or denied it yet, but it resembles a plane, and they're going to look again in the near future.
Yeah, I'd be curious, because of course everybody wants to know what happened to her. I mean, I'm guessing it was mechanical failure. She was too good a pilot for it to be anything else.
Yeah. So, just giving you an idea, if it turns out that they may...
Yeah, that'd be another good book, you're right, if they find her.
Because then you would be able to write the story and, reveal what happened to Amelia.
If they can figure that one out. Because if they do find it, if it is her plane, who knows how damaged the plane is that they can tell what happened.
Yeah.
They might say, we don't know. It was weather. I mean, that I would want answers. I would want real answers.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm the same way, everybody keeps saying that Amelia and her plane disappeared. No, that's not the right words. We just haven't found it yet.
Yes, you're exactly right. We don't know where they are, exactly. Yeah.
And
I've written about, other aviators that I've written about is, another one is Maggie G. And when you say Amelia Earhart, it makes me think of Maggie, because Maggie grew up in Oakland, and she got inspired to want to become a pilot because she saw Amelia Earhart take off and land from Oakland Airport. Mm. And she thought, there's a woman doing this, I can do this. And so when World War II broke out, she was a Chinese American woman, and her mother wanted her to go work in the shipyard doing drafting or something that a woman could do. And Maggie had heard that they were hiring pilots, women pilots, because all the men were taken. They needed more people, and there weren't enough men, so they were asking for women. So she basically, she didn't even know how to drive a car. She and a friend taught themselves to drive by driving this used car to Texas, where they went to flight school, taught themselves to fly, and then they tried out for the WASP, the Women Army Service Pilots. And there were, I think, about 1,000 women tried out for this, and they only accepted several hundred. And it was the same training the men had. It was hard work. And then she ends up being a WASP, one of 2 Chinese American women who did this. And this is a time, of course, when she, being Chinese, as a Chinese American growing up in Berkeley, she couldn't even use the public swimming pool. There was that much discrimination. Mm. And her mother had lost her citizenship, even though her mother was Chinese American, born in California. But when she married Maggie's father, who was a Chinese man from China, she lost her citizenship because of the Chinese Exclusionary Act. So she faced all this prejudice, but she still wanted to fight for her country. And the WASP were doing difficult jobs. They test flew every plane that was developed by the Army. This was before there was an Air Force, it was the Army. And women died doing this because they would basically, one thing they did is the women would train the male pilots. They would fly planes with targets tied to their tails, and the male pilots would shoot at them, at the targets, with live ammunition, because the women, of course, are expendable.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia, saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.